Today, we're diving into the unbelievable, real-life journey of a global icon, Cristiano Ronaldo. Look, we all know the name, right? The billions of fans, the iconic jerseys, the shattered records. But how exactly did a kid with absolutely nothing build all of this? We're looking right past the shiny trophies to uncover a story of immense sacrifice, genuine heartbreak, and a shocking near end to his ultimate dream. Stick with me because some of these early moments, they're rarely talked about, and honestly, understanding them completely changes how you view his massive success. Let's get into it. Let's start by looking at this incredible contrast, the global phenomenon we know today versus the stark, really tough reality of his beginnings. Just imagine being told that one day millions of people would chant your name, that entire stadiums would literally erupt the second you touched a ball. Sounds crazy, right? But then, look at the reality of his childhood. Imagine trying to hold on to that massive dream while growing up in a tiny house where your family struggled every single day just to afford the absolute basics. I mean, it sounds like a movie script, but this was his actual life. To understand how he bridged that huge gap between reality and the dream, we really have to go back to his roots. So, our story begins on February 5th, 1985, when he was born on the Portuguese island of Madeira. Now, today, that island is famous almost entirely because of him, but back then, opportunities there were incredibly limited. This timeline perfectly maps out his crazy rapid progression. I mean, he went from kicking a ball as a toddler to joining a local club at age 8, and then taking a massive, life-altering leap at just 12 years old. This was a kid who had to grow up exceptionally fast. And growing up fast meant understanding his family's financial struggles really early on. His father worked as a gardener and a part-time kitman at a local football club, while his mother worked grueling, long hours as a cook just to keep the family afloat. Money was always short. There were times they simply couldn't buy the things they needed. This was the environment he was raised in, Hard work, long hours, and barely scraping by. So how did he cope with all of that? Well, for young Ronaldo, football wasn't just a sport. It was an escape from poverty and a profound source of hope. From sunrise to sunset, he wanted absolutely nothing else but to play. While other kids went home after school, he stayed outside, chasing the ball until the streets went pitch black. Actually, his neighbors frequently complained because he would play for hours on end without stopping. The pitch was the one place where he could just forget everything else around him. And that pure love for the game rapidly evolved into something much more intense. Looking at his early mindset, we see a boy possessed by a fierce obsession. Friends from his youth actually recall that if his team lost, he would sometimes cry. But here's the thing, this wasn't weakness. He cried because he simply cared more than anyone else on that pitch. Winning mattered to him. Improving mattered. He played every single match as if it were literally the most important game of his entire life. By the time he joined a local football club at 8 years old, coaches immediately noticed he was different. He wasn't the biggest kid, and he wasn't the strongest, but he was completely fearless. We can actually break down the work ethic the coaches saw into 3 transformative steps. Step 1, practice longer than everyone else. Step 2, turn every single mistake into motivation to get better. And step 3, use any criticism as fuel. While other kids were just dreaming about being pros, he was doing the grueling work. It's such a powerful reminder for all of us. Passion is common, but this level of relentless structure, that's what actually builds greatness. And naturally, that unmatched work ethic drew attention. Sporting CP, one of Portugal's top academies, invited him for trials. But this incredible opportunity required what we can only call the ultimate sacrifice. But there was one massive problem. 1,000 kilometers. That is the huge distance from his home in Madeira to the Sporting CP Academy in Lisbon. Accepting this trial didn't just mean playing for a new team. It meant physically relocating 1,000 kilometers away from the only world he had ever known. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a 12-year-old facing this reality. You're leaving your parents, you're leaving your friends, you're moving to an entirely unknown city, essentially all alone. Most children would be completely terrified. And honestly, Ronaldo was too. But he also understood, even at 12, that an opportunity like this might never, ever come again. So with tears in their eyes, his family said goodbye, having absolutely no idea when they would ever be able to live together under one roof again. The transition was incredibly painful. Life in Lisbon was just brutal for the young boy. He was deeply homesick, missing his mom and the comforting familiarity of his family. And to make matters worse, some of the other boys at the academy ruthlessly mocked him for his heavy Madeiran accent. The isolation was intense. It left him incredibly lonely and constantly questioning if chasing this massive dream was actually worth the immense emotional toll it was taking on him. Was leaving home really the right decision? But here is where his unique psychology really kicks in. Every single time doubt crept in, he anchored himself to a singular thought. He came to become the best. He didn't come to Lisbon just to play a bit of football. He went through all this pain specifically to become the absolute best player in the world. When you face your own overwhelming challenges, having that solid why is your armor against wanting to quit, just like it was for him. So he puts his head down, battles through the homesickness, and his career at the academy finally begins to take off. But then, life delivered a sudden, devastating challenge. Right when things were looking up, doctors delivered news that would bring absolutely anyone to a complete stop. They discovered young Ronaldo had a serious heart condition. I mean, imagine surviving the poverty, surviving that 1,000-kilometer move away from your family, finally finding your footing, only to be told your own body might be failing you. The crucial point here is the sheer severity of the issue. His heartbeat was dangerously irregular. This wasn't just a minor hurdle, This was an existential threat to his entire career. Without immediate and successful treatment, his football dream, the very thing he had sacrificed his entire childhood for, his only escape from poverty, could end permanently before it truly even began. For any young player, this is literally the ultimate nightmare. Which brings us to this final, lingering question. Facing a terrifying physical ordeal like a dangerously irregular heartbeat, we're left to wonder how a young boy could possibly survive this. Would Ronaldo ever play again? Or was this the abrupt, tragic end of his childhood dream? How do you overcome a failing heart when your whole life requires you to run? It's a battle that changed football history forever. And it really begs the question, if someone can survive all of that before they even turn 15, what's stopping the rest of us from conquering our own obstacles?